Welcome to the DIY Writer Show with the mild-mannered, slightly heroic host, Jeff Bacon.
It's Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer Podcast, and today I have Justin McAleece. McAleece. He's a Greek god.
Anyway. Perfect.
That's perfect.
Justin McAleece.
Yes. I'm sorry. And I asked you right before the show and I blew it anyway. So, you know,
I thought it was a bit we were doing. I thought that was what that was.
Man, it might have been, it might not be. Who knows? The listeners will never know whether or not it's a bit or not.
Perfect.
Oh, shoot. He is the director of Brick Madness, which is available on Amazon. And I watched the trailer on it and it looks funny as hell. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, a movie I've been working on for 11 years, since 2009, and it is finally out. Super stoked about that and just happy to get it out there. The response so far has been really good. We had done some like local premieres in theaters here. One was at Edwards Theater, and then one was at a local, what would you say, arts district sort of theater and everything. And those did really well. That was 2 years ago. And so now getting it out to the rest of the people has been really great. And yeah, lots of cool reviews on Amazon. People really, I haven't got you used to get, and I used to get, 20 years ago or whatever, was you would show someone a movie and they're like, wow, so you did that with a camera, huh? Amazing. And you got like actors and stuff. Wow.
No kidding.
You on a computer? Huh. It's like they were just amazed. You're like, wow, you drove all the way across country. That was with a car, huh? Good for you.
It's so like, you wrote with a typewriter. Yeah.
With a typewriter. Yeah, that's Microsoft Word. You figured that out all by yourself, huh?
Holy shit.
Final Draft. Never heard of it. Unbelievable. It's all formatted like a script and stuff. Good for you. Like it's Fisher Price, like it's a Tycho, my first screenplay. So I haven't gotten any of that, fortunately, on this movie, like I did on previous works at times. So that's been fun.
Well, let's talk about Brick Madness a little bit, then we can get into other projects that you've done and whatever you got coming up.
Yeah.
This is about tell me about it. Bricks.
Yeah, national Lego competition. Basically, in our world, they are called Bricks, BRIX. So we had to come up with a brand new company, brand new concept, who was running the company and how long it'd been around and all this stuff. And we sort of came up with a lot of history for that. And then we came up with history for the Bricks world and specifically the Brickathon world. So Brickathon is the name of the competition, the tournament championship that we have. And the people in this world are super into it. It's like the only one. So within real world, you and I world, they don't really do that. They don't really have competitions in that same sort of way. And they certainly don't have like nationwide tournaments that play out that sort of way. The closest thing we have now is the actual TV show on Fox. That's now around. That wasn't around or even an idea in 2009 when we thought of the movie and started writing it. And most of what we shot was in 2012. A lot of it was. And so that wasn't even an inkling in the eye of the Fox executives, I don't think, at the point. But, so this centers around that one thing, Brickathon, and how all these people get together, compete. And it's like the most important thing in the world. And it's sort of like, if you remember on Dodgeball or whatever, the Ocho, the ESPN 8 or whatever, like, I think this is like an ESPN 3 level sort of thing in the diegetic world of people.
Oh, so it doesn't go all the way down to Ocho.
It doesn't go down to Ocho. It's I think it's hovering between Cinco and Trace, somewhere in there maybe. But he gets some play and like people pay attention to it in our world, and it's a big deal.
That's a bold move, Cotton.
And then within their minds, and especially like a couple of the winners or whatever, this guy Ricky Six, for example, it's the most important that he's a celebrity. He's Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whoever you want to say is the biggest thing in any given sport. He thinks he's just as equal to that as everyone else. So yeah, he's a big deal, is what I would say. Yeah. He thinks he's Tom Brady, but he thinks he's Tom Brady after 2 lifetimes of Tom Brady's. So yeah, but that's what's funny, because he's super arrogant and cocky and just thinks he's a shit at all times. So we sort of want to see him eat shit and die, which hopefully
Well, I mean, that kind of character works though. Like you said in Dodgeball,
Yeah.
you've got that. Was it Happy Gilmore? That was another one that I think
Yeah,
of.
Shooter McGavin. Yeah, I mean, you want to see Shooter McGavin eat a shit sandwich.
You want that damn crocodile to eat him. I mean,
Yeah,
you
right?
really do.
Uh-huh. The whole thing, not just his left hand or whatever. Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
No, one big chomp right in the middle. I think the best thing was that actor, I can't remember his name. He played Jaws in the Bond movies, that really big guy.
Oh, yeah, Richard Kiel.
Yeah, Richard, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And he turns around, oh, my God. It's like, yeah, get him. And he, doesn't really get him. Yeah.
No. Richard, yeah, he was actually a local. He actually lived at some point, and his family and stuff lived. That's why I knew his name right off the bat. Up in North Fork, which is the exact center of California. He's sort of from there, and so he was like a local dude, sort of. So yeah, and he was not very mobile. He was one of those guys that was just, his body was way too big for his joints or for his muscles and things like that. So it's like he could barely do things, especially toward the end. But in the movies, he looks impressive. Jaws looks mean. Yeah.
He absolutely looked impressive and scary as hell. So
yeah.
I'm really curious because you put this out in a few movie theaters but you also have it up on Amazon. So is this kind of I mean, how'd that process work? I mean, you're the director and you've got this movie. Can you just throw that up to Amazon like you do with, I'm from the publishing world. So I mean, indie publishers are, there's certain steps that you have to do, but it's pretty easy to get something up on Amazon. Is it the same for you, or do you have to go through?
I would say it's harder than that. We're using a distributor. So it's going through Little Sister Entertainment, and that's how we got it up on Amazon. That's how we're getting it on iTunes eventually and some of the other platforms as well. Amazon makes the most sense for us. Not only the split you get with them monetarily speaking, but how we can send people to one place and then sort of cannibalize it later to other places and just keep that specific. In terms of reviews and things like that, we wanted to keep it in one place. We're selling, we sell DVDs and Blu-rays as well directly through the distributor's website. Yeah. And we have a specific thing called the Brickmaster Edition, which we put together. I think it's really fun. There's a couple like fun magnets, and there's actual minifigs, so actual Lego character, completely custom one from the movie. Like we made the dude's face, and we made the clothing he wears. We actually made little cameras too, because those don't really exist in the Lego world from Lego. They don't make they make film camera looking things that look about 50 years old. Yeah. So we made a little handy cam. We printed out 100 of those, and so yeah, that's really fun. So we basically did those for about a month. And we're still continuing to sold. We've sold out of most of them actually. We were selling that set and the DVDs and Blu-rays for about a month, and then we switched over to doing the Amazon stuff and got. So you
3D print those you designed it and 3D printed it?
Yeah, my smart ass friend, one of the guys that's in the movie, I was like, hey man, do you know where to do this? And he's like, oh yeah, something like this, and he like made the thing immediately and sent it back to me, and I was like, dude, fuck off, really? Like, you're way too talented. And then he's like, how many do you want? And I was like, I'll need 100 eventually. He's like, cool, I'll send them in a couple days. I was like, all right, man, sweet. Yeah. So, and then he said, I don't have the box here. He sent the most ridiculous box with a picture of himself inside of it and like, see you next summer. So stupid. But yeah, he's in the movie. He's a great guy. That's Chase Uremian. But yeah, we got this stuff out to as many people as we needed to be able to put everything together and sort of crowdfund some of the stuff that needed to go into this whole movie, even through distribution, which has been great.
Yeah. So you crowdfunded the whole thing or just?
No, 99. No, I mean, basically everything came from my pocket or the pocket of the company. Okay. And most of it was sort of through the company. My company, BLARE Media, is a video production company here in Fresno, California. And we also have places in Seattle. We have another satellite location in Seattle, and then we have, in Phoenix, rather. And then we have other people in Seattle and LA and San Francisco and all that stuff. But yeah, the company basically paid for it over time. I honestly don't know how much the movie cost. I don't have a real good idea. I didn't keep good enough numbers throughout. And sometimes you don't want to know, like not that we were hemorrhaging, but when you are hemorrhaging, you're like, I don't want to pay attention to that. We'll just hope it all sorts out in the end.
It kind of takes the creative spin off of things if you know how much it's costing you.
I think so, to an extent. Yeah. And I could imagine from a writing perspective or whatever, you don't sit down and be like, well, in 100 hours exactly, I will have a perfect screenplay or a good novel or whatever the hell it is, right? It's like setting that doesn't equal that thing. You can say I'll work on it 2 hours a day and hopefully it only takes 100 days or whatever it happens to be, but that's not how creativity works, I don't think. And so setting a timeline on that, which is the same thing as setting a budget exactly and then making sure it's good after that amount of money, is, I think that's a fool's errand. Yeah.
I think it's different as for excuse me, from the author perspective. I think it just depends on the author, because some people can write 15 to 20,000 words a day. Some people write 200 words a day.
Sure.
And it's not that anybody's novels are any better. I mean, some obviously some are better than others or whatever, but
it's not just because of that.
No.
Yeah. That doesn't determine anything.
It's whatever their process is, and it's really individual.
Yeah. And I would say in a similar way, we started with a movie that we started with an idea that was very simple and Spartan and easy, and we thought we were going to get it done literally in months back in 2009. And then I think it got a life of its own, and we thought we liked it more than what we had initially thought we would as it went along. And so we're like, okay, so we'll spend a little more time. Okay, we'll try to see if we can get some other actors in it. Try to see if we can include this thing in it, build this stuff, work on those things, get these other people to bring their Lego mocks, go to this other Lego convention. All that stuff sort of snowballed, and that's why it got bigger and bigger, and that's why it took longer. So, but I'm happy with the final product. It's how we got here.
Yeah. So the actual script, did you who wrote that? Was that you, or was that?
No, somewhat. I wrote I would say a lot of the ideas, like most of the characters, and I find that this is how it is oftentimes with good ideas, is like the characters and the broad strokes of what we were going to do happen like the first couple hours of the first day. Like we had the characters' names of some of them, and we had a lot of those ideas. And then we were actually on set. We were literally shooting another movie. I was the director, or I was the camera operator on another movie. And we would talk over the microphone, all the walkies. So we were like going back and forth with ideas while we were shooting this movie, and had a lot of those, like I said, broad strokes already taken care of. And then I tried to write as much as I could, along with my ex-wife and my brother, and we did a bunch of stuff. And then we started getting other friends involved, other people that were going to be in the movie. We got them in. So we did a couple writing weekends. We probably did 4 or 5, probably, I don't know, 8 sessions all told of like sort of a writer's room situation where 5 or 6 of us sat around and just pitched ideas. We did that a number of times. And then for 2 weekends, maybe 3, we had writer's weekends where 8 of us or 10 of us were around basically the whole weekend, and we would just go eat and write and go home and write and go play volleyball and write, and just like that was all we did for the whole weekend. And so we would try to refine ideas, try to come up with new jokes, try to pack in as many jokes as we could. And then a lot of it too was like testing, just people raising their hand and be like, I don't buy this part. And they're like, well, why not? And they're like, well, I think it's dumb because of this reason, this reason. You're like, fuck you, it's great, I don't want to change it. And then eventually you end up changing it because you sort of want to make everyone, I think you're honing off those rough edges in a good way. Not, you can do that too much, certainly in like actual studio environment, I think can absolutely do that. But I think in the process that we were doing it, where everyone had a heavy stake in it and a lot of sweat equity in it, that we were just getting rid of the things that didn't quite work, it didn't quite gel. And I think that was really important to the process.
Cool. So when you shoot these scenes, do you guys, like when I write something, usually I try and throw it past a beta reader to see if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my great ideas sometimes just fall flat with people. I mean, do you do the same thing in the film industry?
We did some read-throughs, table reads, you would call them. We did a bit of table reading, or at least we would sort of act the things out and see how it played. Yeah. We didn't do like a one all the way through sort of situation of that like you would do on some movies. But that's usually past the point of when that would work anyway. But we did it in so many phases that I don't think we ever We didn't like get on a set and be like, well, this scene doesn't make any sense, or this scene doesn't work out, or this doesn't fit with the rest of the shit. We didn't get any of that because we did it. There were so many different shoot dates, and we did a bunch of interviews. So I did a lot of pre-interviews about, what do you want to say? Going over the characters and having them talk on camera with me just asking questions for an hour. So there's a bunch of that stuff in the actual movie of exploring the characters and seeing how they worked, and then writing around that.
Okay.
I think a lot of it felt pretty organic to begin with.
So working with actors, all my actors are made up and in my mind. Working with actual actors, is that fun, or is that kind of a pain in the butt? Or I mean, how do you portray your vision to them? I mean, it's obviously you have somebody that's trained in acting, so you throw them, I want you to be like this, and more arrogant, more this, more that. I mean, how's that process work? Is it tedious, or is it
No, on this it was not tedious at all. Like that was some of the most fun process of anything on this, was absolutely that. It can be tedious on other projects and other things I've worked on. Like, I haven't been able to dial people into what I wanted. Whether what I want is always right or not, that's up for debate. But on this, that was basically never a problem. Part of that is because we wrote the characters with those people in mind. We ran into that a couple times. There was a number of instances where an actor was like, hey man, is this okay? Like, what am I even doing? I don't even know how this is turning out, because I just feel like I'm just being myself. And we're like, yeah, I know, it's fucking perfect. It's exactly what we want. That's why we wrote it that way. And they're like, okay, cool. And so in my opinion, that really worked out well, because we got people to work toward their strengths. And a lot of the people in the movie aren't like actors by trade. Maybe 2/3 of the people in the movie aren't actors by trade. I'm in it. My brother's in it. This guy, Anthony Taylor, is in it, and Alan Agazarian, a number of people like those. And then a couple others. Like, that's not what they do 99% of the time, is act. They have these other jobs and other stuff within video production or media or whatever. And then some of them are like, that's their job, is acting. And I hope you can't tell the difference at the end of the day. I hope you just sort of see all of them as portraying characters well, and that they're just dialed in, a little bit more than real life, but still realistic-ish. Like, you could understand that person could exist. That was really what we went for. And no, it was, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a joy. It was absolutely my most favorite part, was seeing these people portray these characters and just like dialing it in real time. That was super fun.
I think the worst thing for myself is writing something and then thinking it's really good, really funny or whatever, sending it out to a beta reader and they go, I don't get it. It's like, no, wait a minute. This is really cool. Watch it, and you try to explain to them, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, if I'm fighting this, it's not working.
Yeah, it's, that's the thing I always go back and forth about, is like, I don't know who that beta reader is, or if you only have one, it's hard. And the way I look at it, which there's a few things. For one, I don't think comedy is, I think that the funniest joke is the one that only half the people get, for one thing. So if that person happens to be the other half, then you're like, well, fuck me. You didn't get it. That's fine. I didn't want you to get it in the first place. That's why I designed the joke that way. So like, that can be a problem. The other thing that's being a problem is what's funny, what makes you laugh, and what is comical the next day are three fairly different things. And what has replay value the next time you watch it, like, that's another fourth sort of confound in the idea of what is provably hilarious. Like, I just think there's so many different layers and levels of that, and you have to appeal to different people in different times, in different ways. So whether it's physical comedy, or just being a smartass, or subtle satire, or some things that you would get more in an Arrested Development sort of manner, to where it's like, those are jokes that reveal themselves way later, but you might not even notice them the first time you watch it. Sure. Like, all that, you have to take all of that stuff into account, in my opinion, to make a solid comedy. And that was really our goal, was trying to pack as many of those things in as possible, and not have plot get in the way, that was to where 2/3 of the way through the movie, you're just watching a fucking action scene. Like, I had no interest in that. And I didn't want it to turn into it's not a romantic comedy, but I didn't want that stuff to get in the way. We pitched a lot of those ideas of like one of the characters falling in love with this other character, whatever it happened to be. it's all just nonsense. That's not particularly funny. It's not as funny as the rest of the stuff. So we jettison that in favor of just having jokes 100% of the time. That's really what we wanted to do without being like Airplane. Like we're not that good. We're not that sort
Yeah.
of level of like just what would you say that there's 1,000 throwaway jokes in Airplane. It's not that type of movie,
Yeah.
but we try to pack it full. Yeah.
Airplane. Yeah, we could talk about that for hours.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So anyway, like you're pitching to a dude and like, who the fuck knows what that guy knows? And if he thinks what you think is funny, Jerry Seinfeld says something. I forget the number. I'm going to say it's 60. Anyway, so Jerry, someone was interviewing Jerry Seinfeld and said like, you and Larry David work so well together. You have such this long history together. How can you do that? How can you make that work so well? And I forget the exact number, but I think it was, he said, Larry and we share the maximum amount of sense of humor that two humans can share. And that number is 60%.
You know, that's probably right.
Yeah.
Now just say that.
I think so too. So as long as it makes you laugh and like makes you laugh the next time and the next time and the next time, then fuck it, go with it. I mean, it works for you. Who else can you write for? Especially comedy.
Comedy's tough because my first novel, there are things that people say, oh my God, this is so funny. It's like, he cleaved somebody's leg off.
Oh,
what the hell was funny about that?
Why is that funny? Yeah,
no, it's a smart ass thing he says, you know, while he's doing it, or you know, just kind of how he goes about it, because my character is just very, fuck it, okay, guy, you know, see ya.
Yeah,
you know, and he's the good guy, but you know, it's stuff like that that just kind of makes me go, I don't know what was funny about that, but it's just because it's a smart assy kind of, you know, stupid thing, and somebody reading it from the outside is going, oh, that's hilarious. All right, cool.
Yeah, I never quite get that. That's the Tarantino effect. That's that, you know, like you break the tension with someone getting stabbed or cut or whatever the hell it is, or burned alive, and suddenly it's hilarious. That stuff rarely plays for me. But Tarantino has to make his own movie that works for him, and obviously it works for some of his audience. I think it's a cop out personally, but it works for his people. So fuck it. And he's Tarantino. Well, he doesn't know my name. I know his name. So
like I said, it totally threw me off, because like, this isn't supposed to be funny. It's just something that happens, you know, the guy, whatever. Weird. And then I have this dialogue between this guy and this gal, and they're just totally smarting off to each other. Just giving each other shit. And I thought it was funny as hell. And they're like, boy, she's kind of a bitch. And I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I mean, you never know what somebody's going to read into something, which is really interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
It still worked in the book, but it's just like, I don't know how you see she's a bitch. She's just giving him shit. You know, it's kind of the way it is in real life. Sorry.
Yeah, totally.
But
yeah, it's you know, it's 5% difference sometimes. And I would say one thing too, for anyone who's out there like writing or directing or any of that, is like, you can do a lot of takes, and I think it's a good idea to do a lot of takes when you're doing drama, or it can be a good idea. And you can also do a lot of rehearsal. I personally don't think that doing rehearsal of comedy is smart, because it doesn't work for me. There's been way too many times when I've seen someone just doing a dry rehearsal, or just doing a rehearsal, not a dry one. Dry meaning like they're not putting any emphasis into it and they're not really pitching it yet. But just doing a rehearsal right before the cameras roll. And there's something that they do in that moment that we never get again. And it was the funniest thing. And that is really hard to capture twice. And it's not something you can explain. And I don't think either I'm not a good enough director, or no director has the ability to like tell them exactly what that thing was that was so funny. I just don't think you can explain that, because it's such a micro little moment, and such a like a weird little pop of the eye or whatever it is, you know, that worked. And if you don't get it the first time, you're probably never going to get it again. And I don't think doing comedy, the 10th take, I've never seen a situation where the 10th take is as funny as the first or the second. So
That makes a hell of a lot of sense. I mean, it really does. From my world, it's when an editor will take something and try and change it because it's grammatically correct or it's this or that. It's like, no, that doesn't work. No, this is dialogue.
Yeah.
Don't fucking touch it. Okay, it's got to be spelled this way because it has to be pronounced this way in the head. You know, and it has to be, it has to have this kind of timing. So I know there's an extra comma in there, but I need them to pause right here before they say it, because if you read it out loud, it needs to sound like this, and in their head, it's got to really resonate like this. No, this isn't right. You're gonna jar a reader. It's like, fuck, I don't want to jar the reader. I want to fuck them up the ass with this. Okay,
Yeah, as long as your idea is correct. I mean, as long as your idea is resolute in that situation, then you live or die by that. And that's what you need to do. You can't half-ass it. And absolutely comedy, there's a comedians roundtable thing where Chris Rock and Ricky Gervais and Jerry Seinfeld and Louis C.K. talk from 5 years ago or whenever it was. And you understand by watching that they all have distinct cadences, distinct timing, and distinct ways that they approach jokes and or not even consider them jokes.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that everything that they do is very dialed in. They know exactly every single period throughout an entire or comma throughout an entire 2-hour act, but they make it sound like they may or may not be aware of that.
Right.
And that's super important. So, Louis C.K. is going to feel like he's understanding and coming upon an idea as he's saying it, and that he didn't really understand it the moment before, which is bullshit. He knew exactly what he was getting to. And Jerry Seinfeld's on the other thing where he's like, this is you're watching him do like fucking spinning plates or some shit, whatever it is, a thing to where what has to happen next, and then you see him do it, and then you see the other thing happen, and it's all like very clockwork. And so know that that's happening, but that is the same exact thing. They're the same act, just done 2 different ways, but the precision is equal. And so someone taking your words and fucking taking out a comma or adding the correct pronunciation, fuck that. It's going to ruin it.
Right. And of course, you're going to have some reader that goes, oh my God, he doesn't know how to spell. No, I do. Read it out loud.
Yeah. Right.
Procreated, it's kind of like I watched Letterkenny, and that Dan character who adds an S to every goddamn word he says, and
oh sure,
and then he doesn't even, he critiques people for not knowing how to add S's to the ends of words,
South Park's gotten so much mileage out of that. Much mileage out of that, right? They just find ways to fucking add little tiny things. Just having Al Gore say cereal instead of serious, like it's funny every fucking time you hear it. And how did they get that little magic equation there? Super cereal, like he's super cereal. So they get so much mileage out of that, and I just like get mad at them for like being able to do it. Cartman calls it skew instead of school, or Kya instead of Kyle. Like it's great every time. Yeah. So
yeah, you listen to the story of South Park and you're like, how the hell did those 2 idiots come up with this? It's fucking brilliant.
There's such screw ups too. I mean, obviously they work harder. I mean, when you watch that stuff, going to South Park, going on a whatever the hell that documentary was called, I forget the second. But 72 Hours South Park or whatever the fuck. They work harder than anyone. Because they got to put out a show a week, man, no matter what, when they're doing it. They're not really doing that anymore. But that's incredible. The amount of stuff that goes into that.
What the hell? It was, they're doing an interview with, God, I can't remember. They're doing some interview I saw with them, and they were talking about, it was just funny as hell. It was like probably 15 years ago, 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're talking about going to a party, and they one of them put his butt cheeks up against Richard Dreyfuss and farted.
I didn't hear that one. God,
it's just the way they're talking about it. It's like, and the host is like, well, yeah, who doesn't want to, fart on Dick Dreyfuss?
That's
and just stupid shit like that. And I usually those interviews you watch just because you're kind of interested. That one had me rolling the whole time just
Wow.
because they're idiots. And it's just like,
Yeah.
they played a part, and it's just like, God, these guys are like frat guys. What the
Yeah.
hell?
Well, and they're smart enough to be, a little more, what would you say? There's more to it than just a dumb frat guy thing who's
Oh, I
only doing
know.
it, which is great, but they're still like that. And you can tell that they're not, I mean, they've been doing it for 20 some odd seasons. So it's like that's clearly they're not putting on a show. Like that's
Right.
what they like. That's what's funny to them. And so you can tell that from day one and in interviews and while going to the Oscars, they're doing shit that they think is funny. So, I
Right.
mean, that comes back to the whole genesis of what we're talking about here. You have to make yourself
Absolutely.
laugh. If you don't make yourself laugh, then fuck it. If you don't make yourself sad or happy or whatever the hell it is as you're writing, like, then who cares? What's the point?
What interests me, it's the same thing with movies. It's got to be as a director.
Yeah.
It's the same base creative process.
Steven Spielberg says, I make movies that I want to see. I make movies that I really like. I happen to like the same movies that most people like. And so it just turned out that way. It's not like I'm creating them for them. I'm creating them for myself. I happen to have very populist tastes, which worked out. Yeah.
It does work out. So Brick Madness is available on Amazon. What else you got? What else have you worked on? I mean, it's not just this.
Yeah, I've been making, working on different things for 20 years now. I've been doing this since 2001, 2000, basically. And so I made a movie a long time ago called, it was called Sometimes People Wear Black Shirts. And I thought it was hilarious. Most people didn't. It had almost no plot. So it failed in a lot of ways, but I think there's a lot of good jokes in there. Very few people have seen it. It doesn't really matter. I was hoping that when Brick Madness came out 6 years ago, that they'd be like, wow, this guy's great. Let's go look at his old shit and then see that. But that hasn't happened yet. We'll see if it ever happens. Probably not. I've worked on, 1,000 commercials and thousands of commercials, I'm sure, in that time, and corporate videos and music videos and all sorts of other stuff. So we've done a lot of that. We have another movie coming out that sort of came out in theaters last year, in the limited amount that it could have, with Denise Richards and Malcolm McDowell. That's called Time Crafters. That was really fun. I was a director of photography on that.
Wow.
And we have another movie coming out in March called Better. And that's a documentary about diabetes. So diabetes and obesity and shame and food and what to eat and how to eat, think, and live better. So that's a big thing. That's not funny at all. It's way less comical.
No comedy in that.
No comedy in that. No, I mean there's little moments, and that's about it. But yeah, that's a very serious documentary about the most serious thing that faces our health in the whole world, really, and especially in America. Obviously the pandemic has a different effect in a different way, but I mean, we're not going to stop dying of being overweight anytime soon, because that's really what we're facing, and that's killing more people than anything in a variety of ways that we don't even understand. Alzheimer's, they're beginning to talk about Alzheimer's as diabetes type 3, and that's something that people don't even think about. They're coming from the same place, basically, and the reason you're getting it is the same reason you would get diabetes type 2. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff there, and we dug into that. I co-wrote that based on a book that this guy Jonathan Baylor had wrote, and yeah, that was a lot. It was cool. It's great, and
it's interesting how food affects people, or the overeating or anything like that, and how it not having any discipline on that can totally destroy your body.
I think people have a gross misunderstanding of how willpower and discipline and those sort of like things that we feel like from one person to the other, we can say, well, I can stop doing this and I can do blah, 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 blah. I think people don't understand how that effect is affected by biology and physiology, which, so for instance, there's, I'm going to forget some of the words because I haven't talked about this in a bit, but basically when you're stressed, your body releases, what's the word? Anyway, it's going to release a stress hormone. And when it does that, it's taking the sugar out of it uses sugar to create that. Right. And if you don't use that, when we used to be able to run from lions and stuff, when your body created that stress hormone, we would be able to run from a lion. Now we don't do that. We just sit in the same office chair that we're in, and we just get mad and write an email or whatever it happens to be. So you don't use all that carbohydrate, that sugar that got released into your body, which means if you don't use it, then it's going to go to usually to belly fat. That's actually where that specifically usually ends up. And that in turn, if you were already overweight, that's going to make you eventually feel worse about being more overweight because you have more body fat now, and specifically probably more belly fat. When you do that, you're going to feel bad about that. So in the long run, also in the short run, it tells you to eat more carbs and more sugars. And that's why, like, when you're stressed out, there's usually, you probably want like comforty type foods, or you want cookies, or you want sweets, or you want just some toast or something. Like, those are very specific biological reasons why the foods you want at the certain times, especially when you're stressful, are what they are, because your body was releasing it. Now it wants more because it needs to be able to refill that the next time it theoretically needs to run from a tiger.
Right.
So that is a bad cascade. That happens over and over again to a lot of people. And like I said, the long-term effects are that you're gaining weight, especially belly fat, and you're feeling really bad about it, probably. So that's a shitty cycle to be in, like a really powerfully biologically true cycle that people are putting themselves in all the time. And someone on the outside is be like, well, just stop eating. And you're like, for one, A, it's not what they're eating. It's not the fact that they are eating, it's the fact of what they're eating. B, it probably has more to do with stress and how they're dealing and coping with that than other things. C, it's probably about the shame of not being able to deal with that and the fact that they have more overweight than they want to, and all those situations that brings in modern day society. So it's like, it's such a holistic viewpoint on it that can be very debilitating, more as much as any sort of drug or any sort of other situation that we sort of do understand in a better way, and that we don't look at as a biased of way. So yeah, that's some of the shit. And that's one example. There are multiple examples of that sort of physiological situation that I learned about while making the movie, that I was like, oh, fuck. Because I'm always naturally thin. I've been thin my whole life, basically. I lost 30 pounds at one point by doing the stuff in the book. But, that's never been a problem in my life to that extent. And so looking at it as a willpower thing is a pretty biased way to approach that usually. And it doesn't help them usually. So
usually somebody has enough willpower to do something for about 15 days.
Yeah, sure. Right. And then they got to make a habit, and then all these other outside things have to change too. Right. I mean, if you take drugs, you got off of drugs, whatever it happens to be, and you're still going to the same party with the same parties with the same people taking drugs, you're going to fucking take drugs eventually. And that's the same with basically anything, right? That's a tough wager right there. So yeah, your environment obviously matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the movie that you have coming out this spring, you said?
Yeah, March. We're dialing in the exact dates right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Do you have anything else coming up?
You know what I want to do, and I haven't talked to too many people about this, but like, I'm a huge Simpsons fan. Okay. And especially, mainly the first 10, 12 seasons or whatever, but there's some gems here and there in the last 20 seasons. But mainly it's just the first third or so. But I am sort of notorious for being able to relate anything that happens in any situation in life to a Simpsons quote. And I think there's something to be said for that idea. And I would really like to make a documentary, and I don't know what it would be called. Simpsons did it, probably is not the thing. That's a South Park episode, but something to that effect, to where I think it actually has like a real value. I mean, honestly, within society, that people misunderstand or what would we say, they undervalue or underestimate. Like, I think that satire, especially for the people who like satire and care about that, like, that's philosophy. Like, that's explaining shit. That's fucking Aristotle. That's Rousseau. That's whoever you want to talk about all throughout history. Like, that's how they understand the world better, is through satire. And I think The Simpsons in the first 10 seasons or so absolutely like covered fucking so much of life. Like, everything that can happen is tangentially related to something that they've already talked about, with the most like precise, specific, laser fucking guided idea of like why that's funny or how you can turn that around or what the inequity is in that situation. And I think that's beautiful. And I want to do a doc about that.
Well, the interesting thing about The Simpsons is, when it came out, it's just kind of a cartoon that came out. I watched the very first episode when it aired.
Nice.
That's how damn old I am. But at first it was just kind of a comedy, and you kind of looked at it as that. As it started progressing in years and in what it was actually doing, it was very interesting. I kind of watched it at one point in time to see, okay, what kind of wild and crazy shit can they actually come up with? And then you look back 5 years, it's like, shit, that happened. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought Trump would be president? Well, guess what? The Simpsons called
it.
I mean,
they have a decent understanding of what human nature is. I think is what it comes down to. And they took it to the most ridiculous level of what human nature would be. And unfortunately, especially in America, we tend to fall into those fucking traps.
How fucked up is society that is following the Simpsons lead? I mean,
yeah, I know. That's the Onion too. You take the Onion and they're like, at some point it's hard to write for the Onion because they're like, we can't make fun of reality. It's too close to what our satire was.
I know.
We can't make up anything that's dumb enough to actually be unbelievable.
I actually stopped reading The Onion at one point in time because it was almost like, this is the most comprehensive reporting I've ever seen. Shit. It's no longer funny. It's like, God,
it's not their fault. Yeah, no,
no, they're great. But on the other hand, it's like, oh shit, this might really happen.
Yeah. Well, when it's comedy is tragedy plus time, and if there's no fucking time there, it's just tragedy. Yeah, right. So reading about it's just sad. It's no good.
Right. You'd wish that Fox News would have a little more of the Onion writers in it.
Oh man,
maybe it wouldn't be so fictitious, but whatever.
Yeah, it's a rough time. It's a rough time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens.
What are you working on? What are you up to these days?
I've got 3 books, 3 novels, and I've got 10 novelettes that I'm working on right now.
Wow. That's cool.
And trying to finish them up so I can just rapid publish them and then figure out what I'm going to do next year.
Gotcha. So how many novels do you put out a year?
I put 3 out in 19. Okay. Actually, I put 2 out in 19, 1 out in 20. Or I'm sorry, 2 out in 18, 1 out in 19. And then in oh God, I'm really screwing this up. Fiction writing. Okay. I put 2 fiction novels out in 19 and 1 out in 20.
Okay.
And then all of the lockdown crap and everything else happened, and I had a new child born on April 3rd of 2020, and cool. that really threw a wrench in my monkey.
Yeah.
And, so everything I had planned for 20, I moved to 21 just so I'd have enough time to get everything edited and everything else. And
sure,
it's been interesting to watch people move in and out of my life. As far as editors and beta readers, I can't do this right now because it's like, I thought it also affected me that in certain ways, as far as being locked down and everything else. But you'd think that everybody's sitting at home that you'd have more time to do shit.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't work that way. And so you have to wait for somebody to beta read something because they were off doing whatever, or else maybe I had one person that got COVID. One person that completely just quit doing what she did as far as proofreading and editing. And it's like, okay, so I need to replace her, and that took some time. And
crazy.
It just was like this whole chain of unfortunate things, and all of a sudden it's October. It's like, I haven't released anything. What the hell? Okay,
yeah,
I got an idea. I'll start up a podcast. There you go. That'll help with time.
Yeah, that's definitely been the history of Brick Madness, was, waiting on other people, trying to position it the right way, trying to get the right either actors to be in originally, or distribution to be able to sign on, or money to be able to make it. And then once you actually make it, you're waiting for distribution or news to cover it in the way that you want, or to be able to do a premiere in the way you want. And it's like, and it's all my fault. I mean, it's no one else's fault, but it's like all these sort of tactical errors in when these things are going to happen and how best to use my time. And if I could do it again, I would definitely like just sort of like, okay, if it doesn't happen in a week, either way, I'm going to move on, and that's what's going to happen. And I definitely would advise other people to do that, to give themselves a little bit better, like more concrete timelines of when things need to happen, because you could sit there and wait forever. And the whole thing is like, I don't know how much literary stuff has changed, publishing has changed, but in the 5 years or so that I've been trying to put the movie out ish, things have changed rapidly all the time. Like you're like, well, when this thing happens in the industry, then I'll be able to do that. And you're like, that's not even the direction we're heading now. Like it's completely morphed. So, and that's shit that, who knew the Netflix and Hulu and things like that were going to be a force, streaming was going to be a force 7 years ago.
Right.
Like that wasn't even on the horizon, that was going to be that sort of level of sea change for the world.
What I think is really funny is, I mean, Netflix was just simply a rental place. It was the replacement for Blockbuster. If anybody remembers what Blockbuster was, or any of those video places, I mean, all of a sudden Netflix came and you can get this shit at your house. Holy crap! All right,
yeah, which was great. I used it all the time. I was one of the first. I feel like I was the first person within any of the people I knew that started getting the DVDs on the regular back in like 2000 or whenever it was.
And it was amazing because you get I think it was like 3 DVDs. I don't remember what the subscription
$10.
was.
I think it was $10. 3 DVDs, $10 a month, maybe. I think it was like that.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, you'd watch them and then send them back whenever, and it was so damn easy.
Yeah.
And now I look at Netflix and I'm like, okay, they bring back some things that they bought from major networks, and they recreate them and rebrand them as a Netflix original, which I think is
that
great.
shit's funny. Yeah, I noticed that last night. A couple things. Well, what show is that? There was some show that was like very clearly an ABC show, and they're like Netflix original. I'm like, no, it's not. Fuck you.
Well, like Lucifer, they bought that and took that over.
Okay.
The Last Kingdom. They created Alter Carbon, if I'm not mistaken, and then they killed it for some dumb reason, but whatever.
The reason they kill stuff is very what would you say? They only know the secret sauce of why it's being done. It's an odd thing. I don't know.
All I can say is my major bitch is if you put one more Cupcake War on there or one more baking show, I'm fucking done. I want to see sci-fi. I want to see whatever, but they do a good job of producing things that nobody else will, or picking up things. I think that's
definitely happened.
I think they've done a really good job with comedians, giving them Netflix specials that they not necessarily. I mean, fine, they get it on HBO, but I think Netflix has done a better job of getting people like Bill Burr's new one. That's really cool.
Paper Tiger,
Paper Drake, something.
Yeah,
like
right.
That. Yeah,
something like that. Sorry, that thing's supposed to be on.
I watched it with a drink in my hand because that's the only way that you can really get into Bill Burr. I mean, I love him as a comedian, but I do like drinking while he's ranting.
Funny.
But
yeah, I know. I think he's great. I have we made a drinking game for Brick Madness. We're working on that right now. Hopefully I'll get the graphics or whatever for it today. But yeah, we incorporated that in. One of my friends who bought it was like, hey, what's the drinking game for this? I was like, oh shit, I haven't even thought about that yet.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's fun. And there's another thing out. Somebody made a news article about it being 3 different types of movie, like a movie that you could watch with your kids, a movie that you could watch just if you like Lego and want to be into that, and then a stoner movie if you want to get stoned and watch it. So I think it's got reasons to work in all those different fields, which is good. Hopefully,
I didn't realize stoner was a genre.
There's definitely some stoner movies out there that don't work most other ways, and people get into them just because of that. Most of them are about weed, and this has no drugs whatsoever or alcohol or anything in it. But yeah, hopefully it works. I'll take whatever I can get, right? As an indie film producer, yeah. Get in where you fit in.
Does that shock you when somebody says, "Oh, you need to smoke weed and watch this movie"? You're like, wait
considering
a minute.
I'm straight edge and I've never drank or smoked or done any drugs in my entire life. Yeah, it's a little funny. Yeah.
Does it make you wonder what they get out of it if they do? You know, and like, well, maybe I might want to grab, I'm just kidding.
That's why it's why you try to make things universal without being broad. And I don't know exactly how you do that, except for focusing on the truth. I think with any comedy comes from truth, obviously. And the more you can get right to the heart of something, and that's what I love about The Simpsons or South Park or a variety of other shows, is like when you can just get at 100% insightfulness about one specific thing and just show the exact mirror image of that to the audience, then they're like, oh, fuck, I get it. Like that makes sense. And so the more you can do that within comedy, the more you win. Really, because then the maximum amount of people, and like I said, I only want 50% of the people to get the joke, but I want every joke to be gotten by 50% of the people, but maybe different people too, so that you're working on something that just really appeals to different people because it's true, because it has like fucking cement at the bottom of it. Hopefully that's what you're working toward. Yeah.
No, that makes complete sense. My mind was just going to Steve Martin.
Yeah.
When he used to do stand up, I mean, just silly, zany, stupid shit.
Totally.
And then the next comedian that when I was young that we listened to was Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
Yeah. You got raw and delirious and
sure.
It's like, holy shit. There's such a difference between those two, but we'd be sitting in high school at a track meet with a radio.
Yeah.
Box. Yeah. With a delirious tape on there, just cranking it out. Oh my God, listen to this. And everybody be like just laughing their ass off because it was so real and he was punching everybody,
Yeah. And he was really good at that. I mean, he was, and maybe still is, who knows, but he was so specific and knew exactly what he was doing and had so much panache and so much like power to what he was talking about that it worked, man. It was great. Yeah. And now it's all fucking on PC and you can't say any of those words and whatever.
I still think the best line I've ever heard from Eddie Murphy was "Have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up." when he's bitching about Bill Cosby.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
Well, it is, but on the other hand, it was funny that Bill Cosby, America's dad, is actually a fucking pervert.
Yeah, that it turned out that way. That was weird. Especially for people who looked up to him their entire career. Yeah, fucking weird. We went and saw him in concert 6 years ago or whenever it was, before any of that stuff broke. And he was fucking great. He's hilarious. He's good. But
trying to think what the actor's name was, but there's one guy that just absolutely hated him. And he was with him in, I think it was I Spy. And he wouldn't even talk to him. God,
funny.
The white guy.
I sort of picture the guy I'm remembering. I didn't see I Spy, but I know what you're talking about. I
never had a nice thing to say about Bill Cosby. Just hated him. Everybody's like, "Oh, shut up! It's Bill Cosby." And I think he died or something like that. And somebody was mentioning that, well, he's probably sitting up in heaven or in hell, whatever, going, "Yeah, I told you fuckers. Told you he's a dirtball.
I was right all along."
Yeah, you guys shut me up. Whatever.
That's
fuck
funny.
Cosby. But anyway,
because that was back in the
60s.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember seeing something about it when I was a kid, and I'm like, it's when Dr. Huxtable was there, and this guy comes out and says, "Yeah, I never liked him when, no, I don't get along with him. Nope, just hate him." It's like, who the fuck hates Dr. Huxtable? Well, guess what?
Now everyone does. Yeah, where the fuck? On the show. Yeah, that's right. I was thinking of Robert Culp is the dude's name.
Yeah, that's him.
Show. Yeah, that wasn't in my brain. But yeah, Robert Culp didn't like him. Huh? Okay, maybe he was a fuckhead back in '65.
Yeah, he was a fuckhead back in '65, and that guy hated him for it. Kind of made me laugh.
That's a new album title. I'm gonna put Fuckhead back in 65.
Do a documentary on that. Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh shit. You got anything else you want to talk about?
Bitcoin. It's just going pretty well right now.
Bitcoin, yeah.
Yeah, Bitcoin, cryptos. Yeah, definitely all about that right now. So
Yeah.
we'll see how dated that is in 6 months or 3 months or whatever when someone watches this. This will go out soon. I'm gonna assume this goes out soon, but
Yeah, it does.
We'll see how that that ages, as they say. But yeah, that and just looking into it's really hard to make money with movies. So you gotta keep making money the other ways you know how, such as running a video production company and all that stuff, and hopefully making that other doc. If I could do a Simpsons thing, I think that'd be pretty fun and pretty sweet. I definitely look forward to that.
Honestly, don't think that there's a lot of people that make a lot of money in being creative, period.
You could be right. I mean, we look at artists in terms of like fine artists, people who draw or paint or whatever, and we're like, well, obviously you're not going to make money. Like we've accepted that at this point. And I suppose maybe that's the same thing. We just haven't accepted it in the same sort of way. Like, oh, I make music. You're like, well, okay. Well, you're not going to, that's not a career. You can't make money out of that.
Right.
And I think movies are now maybe becoming that thing as well, unfortunately. Because and it's all like, it's buried entry, you know, as that comes down, enough people get into it that it's commodity and it's cheaper and everything costs less. And so there's more available. So obviously demand is the same and the amount goes up. And so you don't make as much money on it. Obviously it's simple economics.
Right.
And so maybe we're at that place, and we didn't think we were going to be at that place with movies specifically, but we are. And everything creative is now under that same umbrella.
You know, I think that like for my business, indie publishing has allowed a lot of people to enter into making books, you know, creating novels, publishing them, you know, so on and so forth. And with that has come a large volume, and has become a pay for play type thing. So you have to advertise, you have to throw this out there, you have to do this, you have to do that. Otherwise, you're not going to make the rankings.
Totally.
I mean, you're not. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. What ways do you do? What do you do to get your name out there or your book out there? Have you figured out like a good process yet?
No,
that you would want to be. I didn't think so. I mean, no one has, because it changes the week after you figure it out.
It's hit or miss. It really, you know, I think Amazon ads probably work the best for a majority of people. Facebook ads don't work too bad as long as you can target them to, you know, the right people that are going to like your book, you know. So
sure,
you know, I obviously don't target my books towards you know, Christian housewives like that. You know, I mean, it's got to be somebody who's like a little bit of you know, change in their life. I
put the movie up one time, or the trailer was on this thing called the Brothers Brick, which is like the #1 Lego blogging site or whatever. And someone was like, what did they say? I saw that the movie was PG-13. I hope there's no curse words or something like that. And I was like, well, there's not much. It's like, there's only a couple, and there's no sex, and there's no violence. There's no anything. There's no drugs. There's no anything else. There's just a couple bad words, I guess. And she's like, well, or I don't know who this person was, but it's like, there's no reason ever to put a bad word in a movie. You should be ashamed of yourself, basically. I was like,
oh, Jesus.
What are you talking about?
You know, and that's
clearly I'm not trying to cater toward you.
And that's fine. And I hear that with books all the time. My books have cursing in them. They just do. They're gory. They're a little dark. I mean, they're dark fantasy. If you don't like that shit, okay, don't read it.
Bounce.
You know, type thing. Same thing with my short stories and everything else. They're all a little bloody. They're all a little, you know, there's some military, you know, type aspect to it. There's people in there that just, you know, are more than likely to say fuck you than excuse me, please. You know,
sure. Yeah.
And
it just makes sense.
That's the characters, you know. I mean, they're running through some hard times and, you know, whatever. And I totally get that somebody's, you know, objection to that. But on the other hand, when I'm walking down the street, whether it's in Wisconsin or anywhere else in the United States, even in South Dakota or in Minneapolis, or, you know, I'm kind of a Midwest guy myself, Chicago.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
I hear fuck, shit, damn. That is part of society. And you know what? You know, you read some of the the great literature that's out there from the past, and they actually have
Yeah.
cursing in them too. It's just that you don't recognize it because you don't understand what that word means.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
funny. Totally. Yeah, and I think, when you watch A Christmas Story, right? We just came out of that time period and watched that movie.
Yeah.
And when he talks about how his dad is like the maestro of cursing and can string together a whole symphony of bad words, and he's like
Right.
at 8 years old or whatever he is in the movie. And that's what you want to do. I mean, with any word, every word is equal in that regard of like, you want to be able to turn it into something that is better than someone else can do with the same words. And the fact that we all have the same building blocks means you need to build a cooler looking creation. And that's
Well,
really what it comes down to.
the argument I got into with one person, and he was emailing me, which is like, okay, I'll continue this just because it's fun.
Sure.
But my point to him was, in let's say 130 years, I bet you no one will understand what the word fuck means.
Could be.
Look
Yeah,
at how
it
many
might
times that
change.
word has actually changed,
Sure. Yeah.
over the course of the last 100 years,
Yeah.
you know.
That's interesting. I never really thought about it like that. I mean, like our whole definition of what bad words are could totally change. And what's the worst word you could say? It's certainly not fuck. It's
Right.
certainly a racial word, or any number of racially divisive words. Those are far worse. And honestly, the worst thing that a white person could be called is racist. That's
Right.
basically the worst thing you can be. Because what would, not to diverge or whatever, but like you call me a cracker, like, okay, like who cares, right? Who cares about any of those like the quote unquote epithets towards white people? But you call a white person a racist, and that's an actual curse word, like
Right.
in the traditional sense. So those things obviously modify over time. And so having a purely puritanical look at it, it's like, what's the point? I don't know.
My favorite one to pick on is when I use the term goddamn.
Okay.
And then I'll get some religious nut that's going, you shouldn't use the Lord's name in vain. I'll be like, okay, so in your Bible, what's his name? Because I'm not saying his name. I'm saying this general thing. When I say goddamn, it could be Zeus.
Fair enough.
It could be
any number of other gods, a Norse god or something.
Yeah,
We could be talking about
I could be
Odin here.
referring to Thor. It's a general term. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that his name was taken out and is two generic terms used in your version of the Bible. That's fine. Whatever. Sorry about that. Didn't realize that you were all encompassing for the entire fucking world. And thank you for pointing that out. Goodbye.
I love it. There's no, you make a good point. It's like, where does that stop, for one? And for two, it's just at some point it is sort of the corollary of someone just being like, oh, you ended that phrase with a preposition. That's wrong. And you're like, no one cares. It doesn't matter anymore. Shut up.
No, and it only matters to the few people that actually review on Goodreads or have a stick so far up their ass that they're going to be worried about that versus the actual content, plot, and story.
Yeah.
And I get that. But on the other hand,
the rules. You should know the rules. But
right, you should know
when to break them.
You should know the rules when to break them. Exactly. You stole it. That's what I was gonna say. God damn it. All right. Oh, there I did.
Hey, come on.
Hey.
Talking about
knock it off.
Things that way. Yeah, it's like anything. It's whatever you give power to. Whatever you resist persists, they would say in some circles. But,
I think it's whatever society wants to demonize.
Yeah, sure. And they need something.
It's a group of people that say, "Oh my God, this is horrible." I think one of the most horrible things that schools did was take Mark Twain out because it had some words in it that they didn't agree with. That was the time.
He's such a good writer. He's so insightful, such a smart, funny guy. And I love his books, and the words, obviously the N-word and other words in there that, are not allowed today. And I understand some of the reasoning and totally don't understand the rest of the reasoning. That's a divisive thing. And so they just take the weak-willed way out, I think, in general, and that's sad. That sucks.
I wonder how many times Shakespeare's been thrown out, because if you read Shakespeare, guess what?
A
There's
lot of
some
people
that
die.
stuff in there too, but they just don't understand it because it's Englishy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's hard to say. I don't know. We're more sensitive now than we've ever been, so I don't know how many times he's been thrown out. They threw him out for different reasons back then.
Speak for yourself, cracker. No, just kidding.
Nice. Yes, the we.
The
You
we.
and I, we're the ones.
Oh, right.
The royal we.
Oh, it's us. Damn it.
No, that's a whole different thing. But you got to make the things you believe in, the things that you think are funny, art that you appreciate, because ultimately you can't make it for anyone else.
No, I agree with that. And I think I think you're incredibly insightful on that. And that's what I appreciate about this interview is, it kind of reinforces a lot of things that I think. And I know a lot of, realistically about creativity and how you write that type of stuff, especially comedy. I think there's a lot of authors and a lot of people that, of the 5 people that listen to this podcast, that sit there and they're like, well, I'm trying to write comedy. You don't try and be funny.
Oh God, that's weird. Yeah.
It just kind of happens, and it has to happen within your characters, and it has to happen within your head, something that just kind of naturally formulates, and all of a sudden, you're spewing off this conversation on paper, and it's like, okay, that might be funny, it might not be, but it'd be something that you want to read. It's something that you want to see visually or mentally that happens between these 2 characters. And I think it's very interesting the way you put it. It can't be forced. It's got to be something that's kind of natural, grounded in societal, type issues, or grounded in some sort of reality that makes it funny. And like I said, I resonate with that, and I'm babbling. So go ahead, take over, man.
No. It's hard. I've met a lot of people over the years or whatever that have tried to make a comedy short or comedy feature or something like that. And you're like, yeah, but you're not funny, dude. Like, what are you doing here? And they're like, well, I'm putting together. And I'm like, yeah, but you've never said anything funny. I don't know how to, I can't help you be funny. That's impossible. I can help you increase the stakes and the drama that you're writing, and maybe make one of the characters a little more resolute in how they're doing something bad, so that we care more about them getting their shit in the end and stuff like that. Like, we can fix plot points. I can't make you funny. There's no fucking way.
It's easy to write in plot points, and it's easy to write tension, to build tension. It really is, compared to trying to be funny.
Yeah. What's there's a number of things about that, but Hitchcock says there's no terror in the bang, only in the anticipation of it. So you just show a fucking bomb, and then you talk about the bomb for 3 hours, and you get a little bit closer each time to when it's going to explode. Right. And not that it's that simple, but at least we know it's that simple. Comedy's not that simple, not by any means.
No, it's a construct, all of its own, and it manifests itself. And I think that's the correct way of saying it. It manifests itself. While you're writing it, it has to be that real kind of, I don't know. I like I said, there's been times when I've written stuff that people are like, oh my God, this is the funniest line in the book. It's like, I would have never picked that in 100 years. Why? Why is that so goddamn funny to you?
Neat. Yeah. There's definitely that. I've watched it in front of enough people to where I know what works and I know what doesn't necessarily work. And those are confusing to me. So the point of this whole interview is not that I'm great at comedy, nor that I know what is funny, nor that this movie is fucking hilarious. I think all those things are true, at least that this movie is funny.
The point of this interview is to promote Brick Madness. Sorry, I should really stop day drinking. Anyway,
Magnus Chen is he is the minion number 1 within the movie. So you're close. Brick Magnus, done. Change name.
Done. And also to get to know you and kind of understand the creative differences and similarities between what you do and what I do, basically, and just have some fun.
There you go. I think we accomplished that.
I think we accomplished everything on those lists.
Job taken care of.
Cool. Well, with that, you got anything else you want to say?
Go to Amazon, go type in Brick Madness, you'll see it. Go to brickmadness.com. you'll see it as well. And if you want the special edition by any chance, that way you can see the deleted scenes and making of and all this other shit that doesn't exist anywhere else, or get a bunch of cool swaggy stuff, then you can do that as well. There's the DVD right there. Hey,
Where do you get the cool swaggy stuff at?
brickmadness.com. That'll take you there. It's like the first thing.
Right.
Yeah. Easy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just because somebody be driving, listening to this going, where the hell do I get that? I should be able to remember Madness, not Magnus. God, how you got me doing it. Brickmadness.com.
Perfect.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call this a close. Good show, man.
Done.
This is Jeff Bacon with the DIY Writer, thanking Justin for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. If you guys would, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or any of the podcast mediums that you happen to be listening to. Follow me, whatever you want to do. And again, thank you for your time. I want you all to have a wonderful 2021 and keep your chin up.
Click that link. Click that like.
Click that like, man. All right.
Please hit the subscribe button. I get a bonus for every subscriber, and I only need 1,506 more to become a full-time paid employee. Help me, please.